Good evening. I'm about a minute or a minute and a half early, so you've got time to get your Bibles and your notes. Hey, Cent. Hey, how you doing? How's my favorite teacher? But I want you to have writing material. Please take down these scriptures. When this is completed, I want you to go back and study. The Bible says study to show yourselves approved unto God. Workmen that need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. I'm about to hit on a tough subject today, but I'm not going to back off of it. And a particular church in Chester, I'm not going to call your name out because you didn't like what I said about this particular subject, but I ain't backing up. We're talking about the difference between Easter or Ishtar and the resurrection, even the day that he got up. And we're going to bring out in Scripture something that we have been doing by tradition, and hopefully we will change what we have been doing. Father God, this again, I come in the name of Jesus, thanking you always, Lord, for this privilege, because it is a privilege to carry your rich word. And Father, I'm always praying for myself first because I'm my worst enemy. I have to work on me more than anybody else. And I pray, God, that as I teach and as your word is revealed, that the attentive ears will receive this rhema word. Thank you, God, for allowing me to do this. I never imagined even preaching your word, but you brought me out of sin to do what I'm doing today, and you've established me for a time like this. And Father, please don't let me ever be in self. But as I say this, and I mean it, hide me behind the cross, and never let flesh be on parade. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. For some reason, we have lost contact with the Word of God and have fallen into tradition. We've even have things in our sanctuaries that are not in the will of God. When the sanctuary was designed, nothing else was to come in other than those that worship him in spirit and in truth. I'm so glad to see you, Brenda and Jennifer. Thank you. And for those of you that don't know it, it is now Saturday. I know that might have caught some of you off guard, but the Sabbath, am I breaking up already? The devil is a lie. Let me know when you can hear me, because I'm not going. I know how I fix him. I'll sing, Father, I stretch my hands to thee. Can y'all hear me now? No other help I know, if thou withdraw thyself from me, oh, where the shall I go? Now, if for those of you that have been celebrating Easter, it is not the same as the resurrection or even the Passover. I see where the Passover is on this calendar in the month of March. It ain't going to happen. I want you to go with me to Exodus, the 12th chapter, because I can't talk about the resurrection without talking about the Passover. In Exodus 12, when Moses brought the children of Israel out of Egypt, God changed the time frame. If you don't believe it, look at the second verse of the 12th chapter. It says, "This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you." That first month of the year, the Jewish word is Nisan or Abib, and it's April, not January. What I'm saying is, unless we understand Exodus, we will not know when Jesus got up, because the Passover has everything to do with Jesus and the resurrection. So April was the beginning of the month. And look at the 14th verse. Thank you for being with me, Randy, because I might need to put some things on the screen, and Sister Juanita. What does verse 6 say about the beginning of the month, or the month of April? When they celebrate the Passover. And when were they going to celebrate it? After they took that lamb and they kept it, they did not kill the lamb until when? The 14th day of the month. This month is to be to you the first month of your year. Israel is God's chosen people. He gave them the time frame, which was meant to be the time frame for the whole world. And the 14th verse lets them know how long this memorial is going to be. This Passover day shall be unto you for a memorial, and ye shall keep a feast unto the Lord throughout your generations, and ye shall keep it a feast by an ordinance. How long? Forever. Nothing has changed. The Passover on your calendar should be April the 14th, and not, what am I looking at, the 21st or something like that. But the Passover is not in March. It's April the 14th of every year, and we will never be able to celebrate it on the Grecian calendar, and I'm going to tell you why. The Greek calendar has 365 days, and sometimes 366, which is not a rotation. It's bumpy. It's bumpy. It's not a rotation. And some of the days have 31, and February is so confusing. It has 28, and every fourth year it has 29. They call it leap year. And it is not the way that God intended. Let's look at the Jewish calendar. The Jewish calendar has exactly 360 days. How many degrees are in a circle? How many degrees is in a rotation? 360. Every Jewish day, every Jewish month has 30 days, no more and no less. And if you've got your calculators, matter of fact, you don't need it because I just teach a little math. Every 6 years, we gain 31 days on any Jewish person. And I'm 74 years old right now. But the day I turned 72, my Jewish counterpart turned 71. I'm a year older than my Jewish counterpart, which throws us off forever celebrating the Passover, But the Jewish calendar doesn't change. I don't care what you see on this Grecian calendar about Passover, and there is no Good Friday. I'm going to talk about that too. But about the Passover, matter of fact, let's look at verse 17. You should, after observing the feast of unleavened bread, at the very last of verse 17, about the Passover, you shall observe this day in your generations. How long? Forever. Forever. The Jews still, and whether some of you want to recognize it or not, we are the Jewish counterpart. I haven't been drafted in. I believe I'm of the tribe of Judah. The Jews have been scattered. We have been scattered, but we're still supposed to observe the Passover forever, because it wasn't given in the law. It was given before the law. Did you get that? It was given before the law. And what happens on April the 14th in verse 18? In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, at evening. Let me stop right there. Daytime does not start in the day. It starts at night. God started creating when it was dark. And in Genesis, you will find that in 1 and 5, evening and the morning were the first day, not the morning and the evening. That's important. I want you to understand that. Evening and morning in verse 8 was the first day, not morning and evening, all the way down. And in verse 31, when God saw that everything he made, that it was good, evening and morning was the sixth day. He stopped creating at 6 o'clock. At 6 o'clock on what we call Thursday. He rested, Friday. At 6 o'clock, Friday evening, he rested, not worship. Okay, grandkids, I see you. Chill out. He rested, not worship. And Seventh-day Adventist, I love you, but you're wrong. It's not worship. It's to worship. And I'm going to show you that he got up and sanctified the Sabbath somewhere between 6 o'clock Friday and 6 o'clock what we call Saturday. He got up. Not early Sunday morning. Y'all know how the preachers like to hoop on that. Sunday morning actually began at night, at 6 o'clock Saturday evening. Evening and morning was the first day. Now, with that out of the way, when did Jesus celebrate the Passover? I'm glad you asked. Let's go to Matthew. Is it the 26th? Y'all got to help me. I can't remember at 74 like I could at 34, but I think it's Matthew. Is it 26? Yes, it's 26. The 26th. Remember that Jesus, hey, Gerald, Jesus had his disciples to go and prepare the Passover. The Passover, or the Passover lamb. When they went and prepared it, when did they begin to eat it? When the new day had begun. At the Matthew 26 and 20, when the evening had come, when the new day had begun. And that's when he began, as they began to eat in a regular supper. The Passover meal is not communion, it's a meal. But after they had finished the meal, what did he do with some of the bread and the wine from the table? He took bread on Passover. Stay with me, please. On Passover. And he blessed it. After he blessed it, he broke it and gave it to the disciples. And he gave it to them. Take and eat. This is my body. I say take and eat because I want to emphasize Jesus did not partake of this meal or drink because he would be cannibalistic. He would be eating his own body and drinking his own blood. And he took the cup. He blessed the cup, not the contents. He blessed the cup that held the contents on Passover and gave thanks and what? Gave it to them, saying, this is my blood in the New Testament, which is shed for the remission of sins. And I want to prove to you, he didn't partake of it because verse 29 says, but I say unto you, I'm not going to drink it. I'm not going to drink any more of this fruit of the vine until the day when I drink it new with you in the kingdom. He would partake of this at the marriage supper of the Lamb. When I'm teaching Revelation. But what I'm saying, this Passover, everything that Jesus did from the communion meal to dying was in one day. On the Passover, the 14th of April, that the Jews were to keep as an ordinance forever, perpetually. What is on your calendar right now is not the Passover. I think they got what they call Easter, that they think is the resurrection, on the 4th of April, 10 days before the Passover. He did not get up before the Passover. He got up after the Passover, which was on Wednesday, that particular time. I'll prove it. And so you know there's no such thing as Good Friday. This April the 4th, the first day of the Jewish year on the 4th, is not the day he got up. He got up on the 3rd day. Now, you don't need no calculator. If he died on the 14th, when did he get up? Okay, toward the end of the Sabbath, which was toward the end of what we call Saturday, but it's actually the 7th day, because right now we're in the midst of the 7th day. 6 o'clock Friday until 6 o'clock Saturday is the day. The day has already started, and what we call Sunday will not be here until 6 o'clock plus 1 second tomorrow evening. What we call Saturday evening, the Sabbath. Once that ends, you have Sunday morning. Stay with me because that's important. That's very important. Now, the Passover has everything to do with the resurrection. I'll deal with that Easter issue in a minute because it has nothing to do with the church. It has nothing at all to do with the church. We don't do pagan festivals. Now, let's stay in the 26th chapter of Matthew. You'll see that he instituted the meal on the Passover. They sang a hymn after the Passover. After the meal on the Passover, according to verse 30. And he said that somebody would betray him on the Passover. He told Peter that you will deny me 3 times on the Passover. He prayed in Gethsemane on the Passover. He prayed as a human, not as God, on the Passover, because he prayed as the Son of Man, not the Son of God, and said, Father, if it be possible, take this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thy will be done. He was suffering like you and I as a man. He was the God man. And uh, while the disciples were asleep, Jesus prayed the same prayer because as the Son of Man, he did not want to die. I got news for you. I wouldn't want to die for none of you either. We're some wretched folk. For scarcely for a good man would one die, but for us, please. But while we were yet sinners, what did he do? He died for the ungodly. I'm still on the Passover. Those folk came to get him on the Passover. That betraying Judas came and kissed him so that the multitude would know who he was on the Passover. And to show that he identified with men, if Judas hadn't kissed him, there ain't no telling who they would have taken to the cross. Peter, James, John. It was because he walked among men, which we as pastors need to be doing, instead of being so cocky, thinking we're higher than God has called us to be. We are servants. We're servants. And Jesus was among the people on the Passover. Peter cut that man's ear off on the Passover. Jesus went to the priest and to Pontius Pilate. We're on the Passover. Now, why am I saying that? Because all this is taking place between the evening, Friday evening, at 6 o'clock, all the way to 3 o'clock on the Sabbath. He was not. He was on the cross for what? 3 hours till he died. So I want you to see something now. I'm not even going through now. The second day, we're going through one day. Okay, when the Passover was over, and it wasn't over in chapter 27 where you see the morning, because that was still the Passover. Evening and morning was one day. The day it was still the Passover until when Jesus was put on the cross, when he was denied, when the cross was carried for him, it was still the Passover. The two thieves was on the left and the right on the Passover. And it makes good sense. What other time would the Lamb of God that takes away the sin of the world be suffer and die? The Lamb suffers on Passover. Are y'all with me? He was the Passover Lamb. He was, and what we need to understand, that cross, when they laid it down, was a sacrificial cross, just like being laid on the altar. The lamb was slain and laid down on an altar, on the cross. And that's when Satan made the biggest mistakes, because he just had a few followers besides the 70 that sent out. But the devil forgot. He said, if I be lifted up from the earth, I will draw all men unto me. So when they lifted him up, he began to draw you and me unto him, even though we didn't realize it. He was drawing us. And he said, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? And how long was he? How long was he on the cross? How long was he there? From the 6th to the 9th hour. From the 6th to the 9th hour. That's verse 45 of Matthew 27 and 45. Now from the 6th hour is 12 o'clock. Get that in your heads. The 6th hour is 12 o'clock. Satan was in control because he's the prince of darkness. God allowed Satan 3 hours. The prince of the darkness of this world, the God of this world, had 3 hours thinking he had won. But he didn't realize that God was not allowing the world to look on his son as he was suffering. And I ain't read nowhere in the Bible where God turned his back because he didn't want to see his son suffering, he knew exactly what was going to happen. He sent him. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. He knew exactly what was going to happen. He knew that he would be wounded for our transgressions, bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace will be upon him, and by his stripes we are healed of sin sickness. Nothing to do with the body. Healing. Sin sickness. And what happened when he died at 12 o'clock? What happened when he died? Okay? Look at verse 15. You remember that David said, one thing I have desired of, one thing that I will seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, and behold the beauty of his temple. Well, it happened. Verse 51. What happened to the temple? The veil, about 30 feet worth of curtain, was torn from the top to the bottom. And the earth did quake, and the rocks were torn, and the graves were open. And see what folk don't bring out. What happened after his resurrection? In verse 53, when the saints that slept, slept arose, and these are not the folk he went to preach to, and get that in your head. I'll be teaching Genesis again. Jesus went and preached to those that were in Noah's day. That was, the word is caruso. The fact that they saw him was the message. He preached to those that were in prison, but these folk were already up. They got up. They woke up. The graves were open, and the bodies of the many bodies of the saints rose. And what happened at his resurrection? What happened when did Jesus get up by himself? Look at verse 53. They came up out of the graves and went and went into the holy city and appeared unto many. They went into the city and appeared unto many, and they didn't go up until Jesus went up, although it's not recorded. He went up after the 40th day. You have the walking dead, dead men walking for 40 days that went up with Jesus. Now, what is getting ready to happen? What is getting ready to happen? Because this is no longer this getting ready for another day. It's getting ready for another day. I want to show you something. Another day is going to start in verse 57. Remember, evening and morning is the first day. I'm emphasizing that purposely. Evening and morning was come. What happened in verse 57? Joseph of Arimathea and also Nicodemus, it's not written in Matthew, they went to Pilate and begged for the body, and Pilate gave it to him, and Joseph took his body and wrapped it in a linen cloth. Jesus had already been embalmed, and we just missed the point when the woman with the alabaster box anointed him. He said, this is for my burial. So Nicodemus and Joseph, I thank you, but I won't be needing it. You got a good heart. But the earth quaked. The earth quaked. And why did it quake? Because when those that got up with him, they needed a passage out. A passage out. It was an earthquake. Now, on the second day, not the second day. On the third day. On the third day, that followed the day of preparation. That's also a Jewish thing. Folk were still preparing for the feast. There will be other feasts for 49 days. The Passover started the Feast of Weeks. And Jesus left before the 49th day. He left on the 40th day. And but the day of the preparation for the feast, that's what that's is talking about in verse 62. That the Pharisees and the chief priests and the Pharisees got a little worried because they saw the earthquake, they saw the rocks and things. And what does it say in verse 63? Sir, we remember that deceiver said, while he was yet alive, after 3 days, I'll rise again. Now they got worried, hadn't accepted him, didn't believe him, but now they're worried. And what they want to do, command that this sepulcher be secured until what? The third day, until the Sabbath. Until the Sabbath. And so this was now the Sabbath day. This was the third day that they was talking about. They was worried about him. This was the third day. We've talked about two days, but on this third day they got worried because they had some weak faith. So they sealed it and set a watch. Now, when did Jesus get up? It was not Sunday morning. This was the Sabbath. I told you the Sabbath begins at 6 o'clock right now on Friday, but they call it Saturday, and ends at 6 o'clock the following evening, which is toward the end of the Sabbath. Sophia, God bless you. What does chapter 28, get this in your head and get it right. In the end of the Sabbath, which is not the end itself, but it was winding down. In the end of the Sabbath. How do I know it was winding down? Because as it began to dawn, that will happen. As Saturday, the Sabbath began to come to an end. It says, in the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week, that's when Mary Magdalene came, and there was another earthquake. The earthquake wasn't to let Jesus out. It was to allow Mary to look in. Get that in your head. And what had happened? By the time they got their walk, because you could not walk, there was no work done at the Sabbath. None. Folk were in the houses. But toward the end of the Sabbath, while it was still dark, now they are coming toward Sunday at 6 o'clock plus 1 second on what we call Saturday is actually Sunday morning. Evening and morning was the first day. It was the beginning of a new day. Jesus had already gone because the prophecy was, as Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 nights and 3 days, or 3 days and 3 nights, doesn't matter how you put it, it's 72 hours. 72 hours. From 3 o'clock on that Wednesday, he was there from 6 to the 9th hour, 3 o'clock on that Wednesday, to 3 o'clock on Saturday, is a total of 72 hours. He was not in the grave 1 second past those 72 hours. He got up at 3 o'clock before the Sabbath ended and consecrated the Sabbath. Stay with me. Stay with me. He got up on the Sabbath. As a matter of fact, he's still in the grave right now, if he was here. But come 3 o'clock, this is still the Sabbath. This is Saturday. But come 3 o'clock, he's done got up out of the grave. He got up. That is 72 hours. He got up before that Mary and those folk, before they came. He was already, because when they came to the tomb, he was already gone. Now, what have we done in the church? I'm glad you asked. We have this thing called Easter that has nothing to do with the resurrection. Turn with me to Acts the 12th chapter. Acts 12. Because Easter is only mentioned one time in all the scripture. One time and one time only. Are you with me? The only time it is mentioned is in Acts 12, about the time that Herod the king, which was a pagan man, stretched forth his hands to vex certain of the church. He began to mess with them. And then he became a killer. He killed James, the brother of John, with a sword. You see that? And because he saw it pleased the Jews, he was getting ready to kill Peter too. But what was going on at the same time they were celebrating Easter? Then were the days of unleavened bread. Herod did not celebrate Passover, unleavened bread. They were celebrating their own festival at the same time. Because, look at verse 4. And when he had apprehended Peter, he put him in prison and delivered him to the 4 quaternions of soldiers to keep him, intending after their celebration, Easter, to bring him forth to the people. He didn't want any distraction from their celebration, and he had planned on keeping Peter in check until after the pagan celebration of Easter from the Greek god Ishtar, the goddess of fertility. And we have been so messed up till we want to have a sunrise service. We have even called it Sunday morning. Those names are all paganistic. There's no Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday in all of Scripture. It's the first day through the 7th day. There's no January, February, all the way up to December in Scripture. It's all the first month through the 12th month. Get that in your head, because those are paganistic days, like our paganistic calendar that's done thrown the Passover to April the 4th this year instead of April the 14th every year. Jesus ain't even gone. He ain't even gone to the to the cross until after Passover. How you gonna celebrate the resurrection on April the 4th? Come on, you might be right. You might be celebrating Easter. It's paganistic, and folk have become so messed up that now you have a sunrise service. Where did that come from? Thank you again. Let's go to Ezekiel the 8th chapter. It happened way before the resurrection. And I know if you pastors are watching, I know you mad now because you ain't going to be able to take up no money. And ain't going to be able to wear no rabbit ears and have the eggs. Rabbits don't lay eggs. Have that dumb looking ears in the church on. Don't get me started. In the 8th chapter, where did this sunrise mess come from? Because some of you folk won't even come to Bible study or prayer meeting, but yet you want me to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm talking to you, old Wilson. I was there for a little while. I said I will come, but I'm not recognizing no sunrise service. I'm coming to preach, and then I'm leaving, which I did. Yeah, I said, y'all know who I'm talking to. I ain't scared of none of them. I'm saying again, I said it then, I'm saying it now, and I'll say it again. If you don't leave me alone, I'll add more to it. But the thing about it, this did not start anytime during the resurrection of Jesus Christ. In Ezekiel 8, where did this sunrise stuff begin? Well, Ezekiel said in the, let's start with the 12th verse. Son of man, you've seen the ancients of the house of Israel. That's the old preachers. Us old folk. Yeah, I'm old too. Us old preachers. But I don't do stuff in the dark. I think that's what it's... you know, you've seen what the ancients of the house of Israel do in the dark? And every man in the chambers of his imagination. For they say, the Lord don't see us. The Lord ain't nowhere near. He's forsaken us. And he told Ezekiel to do what in verse 13? Turn, and you're going to see a worse abomination than this. And he brought Ezekiel to the gate of the Lord's house, which is before the north. Okay? Y'all know north, south, east, west. And what did he see? What did he see? The women weeping for Tammuz, Tammuz. And I want y'all to Google it when we get off this. Y'all see these pants a little bit too tight. I'm getting older. He was the Sumerian god of spring vegetation. And he had linked up with another goddess of fertility. At first it was Deuter, but I'm talking about Ishtar, where we get the word Easter from. And she was the goddess of fertility, where you're getting your rabbits having all these bunnies. But what were they doing? Okay, look at the abomination. He said in verse 15, turn again, you should see even a greater abomination. Well, what could that be? He brought them to the inner court, closer to the church, the inner court of the Lord's house. And what was at the temple, at the door of the temple, between the porch of the altar? The priests. And the number wasn't even right. It's supposed to be 24 of them, but you see 25. And you would think they'd be going to church, right? Going in the temple. Think again. With their backs toward the temple. That'd be just like me turning my back on y'all. Y'all won't be able to see me. And their faces toward the east. And what were they worshiping? I'm glad you saw it. It was a sunrise service. They worshiped the sun. They worshiped the sun toward the east, the same place that God, Jesus and Christ is coming from. That was the sunrise service that the churches have incorporated, that paganistic culture getting. I'm going to be sleeping. Y'all can get up at 5 o'clock in the morning you want to. Y'all won't even come and listen to me at a Bible study. I'm not coming. I'm not coming. They worship the sun toward the east. So there you see that, right? Now you think that's something. Turn to Jeremiah, the 44th chapter. It's not just sunrise service. Let's go to Jeremiah 44. I'm slow, and I'm trying to be slower. I've got to start doing better. I feel Pam in my spirit telling me slow down. Everybody's not in your head like that. I got a little perturbed. I couldn't get mad at my queen. Now in Jeremiah 44, what are they doing? Matter of fact, Jeremiah was telling the Lord that they're not going to listen to you, and I know they're not going to listen to me. They've been, they're burning incense to God, and there were women by and all that. But and Jeremiah said in the 16th verse, as for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Lord, we're not going to hearken. We're not going to listen. I'm trying to tell you, don't celebrate Easter. I know some of you Negroes ain't going to listen. I know you're not going to listen. Because you're teaching for doctrine the traditions of men, and you love what you're doing. But we will certainly do whatever thing goeth forth out of our own mouth. We'll do what we want to do. We'll burn incense to what? The Queen of Heaven, Ishtar, from where you get the word Easter, and pour out drink offerings unto her. And that Queen of Heaven is now in Catholicism. Guess who the Queen is? I'm glad you see it. Mary, mother of Jesus. Mary, mother. You don't pray to Mary. She is not the Queen of Heaven. She's dead and waiting on the resurrection just like the rest of us. Yeah, Catholic folk, I said it. And we, my daddy did it, our kings did it, our princes did it. They had plenty of stuff to do it with and saw no evil. If they could do it, why can't we do it? But anyways, in verse 18, since we left off to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven and to pour drink offerings to her, we have worshipped all things and have been consumed by the sword and by the famine. What did they do in the 19th verse? What did they do in the 19th verse? Well, in 2021, it's called hot cross buns. They burned incense to the Queen of Heaven, poured out drink offerings to her, and did what? We made her cakes. What are y'all doing? What are those hot cross buns? The cross doesn't represent the cross of Christ because he hadn't even come on the scene yet. The cross was that man that I was talking about, Talmud, the T for Talmud, for fertility, the god of fertility, and pour out drink offerings unto her. And we don't even need our husbands to do it. We're going to do what we want to do. It says, without our men. They don't tell us what to do. Yeah, well, we still don't. We tried, but that's another story. And where do you get hot cross buns from? That's paganistic. And that's why the Lord said to the church at Thyatira, you have allowed that Jezebel, no men around, that calls herself a prophetess, to seduce my servants and make them commit fornication. The fornication is idol worship. Idol worship. There is idol worship in any house of God that has an Easter sign in front of the church saying we're going to celebrate Easter. We celebrate the resurrection. There are two things completely different. Go ahead and celebrate on the 4th of April. Good. Fine. It has nothing to do with the resurrection. The resurrection was after the Passover. Jesus instituted the communion meal on the Passover on April the 14th. It is an ordinance forever, including 2021. What you see on this crazy calendar, there is no Palm Sunday. Jesus got up. There is no Good Friday. Y'all have him getting up in 36 hours. In the grave on Friday, in the grave on Saturday, and got up early Sunday morning. That ain't even 72 hours. If it was a Good Friday, he'd get up Monday. Use your calculators. From 3 o'clock on Wednesday, when he died, he actually died. That was the Passover in that year. You have to reach way back, then it's there. The Passover He died on the Passover at 3 o'clock. It began at 7 o'clock the previous day. Evening and morning was the first day. When the Passover was about to come to an end, 3 hours before the Passover ended, he died at 3 o'clock Wednesday evening and got up 72 hours later in 3 days. Let's see, Wednesday to Thursday, Thursday to Friday, Friday to Saturday. I didn't need a calculator. A fool can see that. He got up on the third day at 3 o'clock, 3 hours before the Sabbath ended, while it was still dark. It was toward the end of the Sabbath while it was still dark. Oh Lord, I know I'm in trouble. He got up. He gave the sign of Jonah. Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days, 3 nights, 72 hours. If Jesus had not got up at 3 o'clock on the Sabbath, he would have been in the grave 75 hours, which is 3 days and 3 hours. And that's not what he said. I believe Jesus. He got up toward the end of the Sabbath so he could continue with the worship, the 49, there were 7 Sabbaths. There was 49 days. He left before the end of the week of Sabbaths. He left on the 40th day. And on the 40th day, and I'm going to put this in there because I'm sick of you folk not letting people that want to have the communion meal have it. Not one of them crooked disciples was saved when he instituted the meal. He instituted the meal before them devils knew what the Holy Ghost was, because he instituted the meal before he died. Did he not? Did he or did he not? They had the meal before he died. Did they not? Okay, when he got up, the same day he got up at night, at the evening, he appeared behind closed doors. The same day he was resurrected, he appeared behind closed doors to those unsaved disciples that had taken the meal and said, breathed on them and said, receive ye the Holy Ghost. If a person wants to partake the meal, I'm sick of you boards, which there are no boards, there are ministries, and you got folk trying to run the church. I'm talking to you deacons. The only thing you run is your mouth. You can't even run your home. A true deacon is a teacher, and I know one good one. You need to learn from him. I don't call his name. Y'all try to treat him like you do me. But he knows there are no deacon boards, and he does what he's supposed to do. He is ministering. He's not trying to run anything. Pastors, we don't run anything. Moderators, you definitely don't run a thing. You are there to, you can come. You don't pastor nobody's church but your own. I don't care how many churches that are in the association. You only pastor one church. You don't pastor other pastors. And don't ever walk in my church thinking you're going to tell me what to do. You're in trouble. You are free to come and worship. You are free to come and watch my baptisms. But there's only one shepherd in that church, and you're looking at him as one under shepherd, which is me, and the only person over me is not a moderator or some of these fake bishops, but God himself is the chief shepherd. And I know I'm getting off the subject, but let me deal with this issue too. I've been a bishop for 50 years, and not one of you crooks have put your hands on me to set me aside, because that was God's doing, the same way he did Paul. A bishop is none other than a pastor, an overseer, and an elder. Read Titus, read 1 Timothy. A bishop is a man and not a woman. Get that in your spirit. I want you to read. I love y'all. There's some that you've got that title, but that title is for the male. Read it. Unless you got a deacon is the husband of one wife. Are you transgender? That's all. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But that office has been elevated above what God called it to be. Bishops, take care of your own church. There's no such thing as you coming under the auspice of. Don't try that with me. Don't try that. Jesus, when he got up on the third day, he fixed it so that when he appeared behind closed doors after the resurrection and told the disciples to receive ye the Holy Ghost, then and only then was the first sermon ever preached. Get this in your spirit. The woman at the grave, Jesus revealed his messiahship. He did not tell her to go preach, teach, or anything else, but go and tell the disciples where to meet him. If she had told them to meet him at the garage, that wouldn't have made her a mechanic. And if he had told her to meet him at the farm, that wouldn't have made her a cow. But what I am saying is, we've got to walk worthy of the vocation in which we are called. God, when Jesus appeared behind closed doors, said, receive ye the Holy Ghost. The disciples then were able to go into all the world because of his resurrection and preach in places that Jesus could not, because he was confined. He was the Son of Man. But now, because of what he did, I am talking to you right now. Because of his death, burial, and resurrection, 72 hours. I don't celebrate Easter. I'll boil my eggs, but I ain't going to put no coloring on you. That color just penetrates through the shell. Y'all just crazy. Y'all just crazy. And I'm not going to make the store owners happy. And don't send me no Christmas card or Easter card. Don't do that. Save your money. There is no such thing as Easter for a true child of God. Pastors, I challenge you. I know you. Call me. Call me. Call me. Oh, you don't have my number. Oh, 276 233 5660. Unlike some of you other pastors, I don't have an unlisted number. You should be accessible. But anyway, happy resurrection morning on I think it's April the 17th, after the Passover. 14 plus 3 is 17. He did get up on the third day. This stuff y'all doing now. But go ahead and celebrate Easter. Yeah, the 4th of April. That's fine. It's not the resurrection. I love you. And pastors, I'm not mad at you. Fill your pockets. Buy some eggs. Put on the bunny rabbit ears. But God's not pleased with it. And you will be held accountable. Y'all have a blessed rest of the day. And we will be back in Revelation Sunday night. Join me when you can.